I have to state that I think Rabbi Ben Bernanke, I know he's not a real rabbi, but I'm talking like a rabbi. I think he's like the spiritual leader and guru of the American economy. And I'm not Jewish, so I'm just giving a guy a compliment. I think he's doing a great job. You know, people are always talking like conspiracy, you know. You know what? Ben Bernanke wasn't around in 1913. You know, the Federal Reserve's been around for 100 years, almost 100 years. So he's dealing with whatever situation he's got to deal with. I don't have any problem with the guy. And people in precious metals, this guy pumps out the money supply in greater quantities and does more quantitative easing. He's the guy that's going to make you rich, and you're all attacking him. But I found this article from June 8th, 2011, and this tells you the kind of crapola Ben Bernanke's having to put up with from all sides. So if you're wondering why QE's being delayed, you know, there's a lot of things going on. He's getting criticized from every angle there is. And you know, the way I look at it, they're picking on a Jewish guy. That's the way I look at it, you know, and it ain't right. And I think this guy, Ben Bernanke, is not a bad guy. I'm telling you, he's trying to alleviate a lot of the stress of the economy in the United States. And he inherited this problem. And you know what? Most of the American economy is entirely fluff. Because, you know, you got loads of fat cows and dorks sitting behind desks. And, you know, and I do the same thing, but I do various things. Well, let me put it that way. And it's a big bureaucracy. It's a joke. You know, you can take major slices of the American economy and throw it out the door, and the numbers would look bad, but it doesn't actually produce anything real that people need. So, you know, Bernanke can't change that. You know, that's been going on for a long time. And, you know, kind of like, you know, I know about criticism about Jews, but, you know, Jews aren't the majority in the country. The Goyim are, and the Goyim got themselves to blame. And I'm not a Jew, so I'm just telling you flat out what it is. But I want to tell you the kind of garbage that Bernanke gets from even Wall Street after these clowns get bailed out. And I know a lot of people that listen to silver channels and things like that, they don't like Jamie Dimon and all this kind of stuff. But I just want you to keep a clear head and see how these people think and just how much BS and how vicious they are. Well, I understand them right off the bat. It's no problem. But this is from June 8, 2011. Yesterday, which was June 7, 2011, they're talking, Ben Bernanke made a speech on the state of the economy. Then Jamie Dimon from J.P. Morgan took the microphone at the end of the speech after Bernanke was finished, and he voiced some concerns that many on Wall Street are having, right? Basically, that financial regulations on banks in particular are slowing the recovery. You know, so Jamie Dimon looked like this big hero. He's playing like a ham, right? Jamie said, you know, he got all this big response. Go Jamie, right? Here's the whole problem in a nutshell. Now we're being told we're going to have even higher capital requirements. You know what? That's a good thing. You know what it is? They don't have as much money they can speculate with. And you know, when they screw up, when they speculate, if they screw up, what happens? They get bailed out, right? He's criticizing Bernanke for doing the right thing. Basically, that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. Yet he's playing like, you know, he's against Bernanke because, you know, everybody's beating up on him right now. This guy's bullshit. That's all I gotta say. Sorry I said that BS word, but you know what I mean. He is a load of it. A load of it. And it's the kind of garbage Bernanke is putting up from every angle there is, you know. So you know why QE isn't coming around right off the bat, but I think it is coming up. And I think it's a smart thing. Because basically in the United States, you got a load of fluff. You know, I know the people on the top planned it that way, but it's also the people on the bottom are that way too. You know, it's a mixture. You got a lot of professionals out there that don't do anything as far as I'm concerned, especially in the medical community. Big joke. But the Fed risk inflation with talk of QE. This is a recent article. This is from 2 days ago, Wednesday, January 11, 2011. With the Eurozone crisis threatening to pull down the U.S. economy, some members of the Federal Reserve are discussing another round of quantitative easing. Now, you've seen this happening, you know, and I got this picture of the little dollar. Well, you know what? People are holding physical silver. You want this to happen. And I'm going to tell you, the reality is, and everybody's like, oh, I want to save the planet, and everybody just buys silver and everything will be great. Well, you know what? If everybody had a lump of metal in their pocket and they all had equal lumps of metal, that wouldn't help the economy. And talking about silver don't help the economy at all. It's all BS. I'm telling you, it doesn't help the economy. None of it does. People actually produce something, help the economy. So, you know, I'm just telling you the truth angle behind this thing. And, you know, I monetize every damn thing on here. I don't care what it is. Because, you know what? I grab anything I possibly can, no matter how little or how big. That's the way I think. And, I'm giving you a straight scoop about this stuff. People into silver that'll love Ben Bernanke. He's going to help you out. He's going to destroy, maybe he might destroy the middle class. But you got to remember, a lot of the middle class are screwed up. I'm going to tell you right now. If you take your average doctor, attorney, a lot of these professionals out there, they're worthless. I don't care if they lose all their money. I want their money. I want to take all of it. I don't care. I don't care if they're all broke. That's the way I think. I'm not thinking about saving the world. So, you know, I'm thinking about me. But this guy, I want to tell you straight up, Ben Bernanke is helping you. And he is getting a kick from every angle there is. Ben Bernanke is helping you. In simple terms, the Fed is laying the groundwork for another round of unmitigated money printing, also known as quantitative easing or QE3, as it would be the third iteration of the strategy. If carried out, it would only be a political blunder in an election year, but it would go, you know, it would further damage the economy. But you know what? I don't think this has any effect on the economy whatsoever, because there's too much garbage in the economy. You know, when you're looking at the numbers, actually what happens in, you know, people I respect in the American economy are people actually in construction, the people actually do things per se and produce stuff. You know, but most of the money in the United States is not given to people who actually produce something. They're given to professionals, even the middle class professionals. And, you know, a lot of that stuff is one big racket. So, you know, a lot where if they go broke, I ain't worried about it, to tell you the truth. Not in the least. You know, I'm kind of selective on who I consider, you know, is good to go and not. But for the most part, the majority of Americans are not producing. That's just how they are. It has been a changed society from what it was 50 years ago. But it looks like a very sure bet that QE3 is coming up, and you can thank Ben Bernanke for this, and he's going to help you transfer that wealth from everybody else into people's pockets that are holding physical silver. This was some highlights from this story, and I thought these were good because it indicates that it's not just Ben Bernanke, it's a lot of people thinking the same way. Chicago Fed President Charles Evans said on Wednesday, that's this week in January 2012, that more needs to be done to support housing. And I've seen articles on this, a few articles, about them buying more mortgage-backed securities, and that the banks need to make more loans, and that if needed, the Fed could provide another $600 billion worth of quantitative easing, which is the same size as QE2. Atlantic Fed President Dennis Lockhart, while somewhat skeptical of its effectiveness, would not rule out QE3. San Francisco Fed President John Williams said there is a case to be made for using QE3 to support additional mortgage securities. So they're all on the side of this. They're all pretty much thinking the same. Fed Governor Sarah Sarah Raskin said the Fed's use of unconventional policy tools, including QE1 and QE2, has been appropriate. Fed Governor Elizabeth Duke said that there's too much slack in the economy to create inflation. Boston Fed President Eric Rosengren said that the Fed still needs to support the recovery and that the purchase of mortgage securities could do the trick since inflation is likely to remain below 2% for several years. And the recent figures were like zero or negative inflation. New York Fed President William Dudley said it would be appropriate to consider additional easing measures to assist the housing market. So I think this is definitely going to happen. And, for people with precious metals like myself, the script after would look something like this. Stocks rally on Fed QE and another flood of cheap cash. Speculators dump said cash into commodity speculation. Prices for energy, precious metals, gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and foodstuffs swell. Inflation measures increase. Consumer spending and consumer confidence drop. The economy weakens further and stocks drop. So, I'm going to probably play this where if I see some serious gains, I'll definitely be selling the electronic stuff, taking the toilet paper, cash, and I might even do some of it with some of the physical. I don't know. I don't want to do a majority of the physical or even a significant amount of it, but just a small amount of it. It depends on how hard this stuff goes up. And I've been noticing this all the time. Every time these people into silver, they see the price of silver go up and they get slammed down. I do know that there's a reason for having the price of silver slammed down. I agree with that, and gold. And I know there's some kind of conspiracy, but it's not 100% that way either. The market is making a decision. They don't want this stuff. Maybe it's a stupid decision because in the long run, it's going to go a hell of a lot higher. But it is smarter to trade in and out if you can guess where it goes. But that's not something to do with the bulk of your money. That's something to do with a smaller portion. And it's not that difficult to actually figure where the highs and lows are, because when everybody's like screaming it's going to go to $300 or something like that, that's pretty much when you know it's going to have a pullback. It's very simple to tell. But you should thank Ben Bernanke. He's a great guy. And, I don't know what's up with him exactly. I don't know the guy personally. But, of course I don't know the guy personally. But, the more I'm examining this stuff, the more I'm figuring out that he's getting hit from every single angle there is. And no matter what he does, he's you're going to call him garbage, And, really think about it. How could one single person save the economy? He's doing the best he can. He's not a bad guy. This QE3, maybe he's not going to go overboard with it. But, quite obviously, people are bitching at him right now because he's not doing QE, right? But if he would have done it, we would have seen silver at probably well over $50 an ounce by the end of the year. If he did QE, he would have easily probably went up over to $50 an ounce despite margin hikes, right? And people would have been mocking him, knocking him down for everything. And he isn't just getting it from the little people, he's getting it from this guy too. This guy's just complaining because you're forcing him to have higher capital reserve requirements at the banks. That's a joke and a half. This guy's a devil. But people, they buy into this crap. I don't know. But the honest thing that's going to happen when silver goes up to that, if silver goes up to $500 an ounce or more, everybody else is going to be poor. You ain't going to save the world with that. If you got silver, you're going to have the money. That's the way it goes. And the dollar probably is not going to crash to nothing. I don't think they're looking to do that. I think that it's going to go down a hell of a lot, but it's not going to crash to nothing. Don't play into that garbage. I don't think that's going to happen. I think a lot of people out there that are into silver, they think the dollar's going to get hyperinflated into oblivion. I don't think they have any plans on doing that. If that happens, I think that might have been some miscalculation on their part. So, it's probably a good idea to hold metals no matter what, long term. But when you see some high prices, you should be selling, taking the fiat. That's what I'll be doing. If I see if this junk went up to $500 an ounce, it's gone. It's gone. Most of it's gone. So I'm in it to win. I'm not in it to save the world. And people think they're saving the world by telling everybody to buy physical silver. I don't know. I almost look at that like another angle, and I say to myself, that's the only way the prices are going to get driven up, if there's a panic at this silver. And if you're holding this stuff, I don't know. It looks like a scam either way. But this is the right place to be. And 99.9% of people are in the wrong place. That's just the way it's going to go. Just thank Bernanke for he's the one that's going to save the world for the silver holders.